Hey guys, in this video I want to talk about how to create effective accessibility bug report. The first thing is that you give enough information about the environment in which you proceeded the testing. One important information is, of course, the operating system on which you tested. For example, Mac or Windows or iOS or Android, or Linux, of course, and the version which you used, because there can be differences, for example, between Windows 10, 11 or 11, and also the update version, because perhaps there's a bug in the version which was fixed with the next update. And this is important for the people so that they can reproduce the problem you described. Another thing which is of course important is when you use, when you test a website, the version of the browser and the browser you used. When you test with assistive technology, of course, this is important to give the information which technology it was and which version. And if you use special test tools, for example, bookmarklets or tools like the Contrast Analyzer or Accessibility Insights, you also should add this information, at least for yourself, so that you know which version you used when you tested the website. When applicable, you should also communicate the smartphone you use. It's clear in iOS, the iPhone version, but in Android, of course, you should also communicate the producer of the smartphone you use and the version, of course. Make the browser as clean as possible. I would suggest to use a special version, a special profile of the browser for testing. This means don't use your usual browser environment, because there can be, for example, cookie blockers or plugins which can also impact the test results. Another thing is when you use editorial systems like WordPress, it can be that you get another version of the site when you are logged in, as when you are logged out. That means you should be logged out or use another browser profile or something like that. You should also not be logged in into the system. One important information is the date of the test. That means it can happen that websites are changed on a daily basis, and for the developers it is important to reproduce the errors. They need to know the date to do that. Bug report should always be written from the perspective of the customer or the developer. You have to bear in mind that many developers or project managers don't have any knowledge about digital accessibility, or at least low knowledge. So they will not understand special terms we often use, and you need to explain it. The following points should be included in every bug report. Where does the problem occur? perhaps you should, or it's always a good idea to add either screenshots or source code where the problem occurs. When does the error occur? What does the developer have to do to reproduce the error? This is especially important for dynamically produced websites. For example, when you search in an online shop, it's maybe difficult to reproduce the step, or if you only give the URL, that may not be enough for the testers. What is the desired outcome? That means the person should always know what should the usual behavior be, so that the error does not occur. Make sure that every error is associated with the WCAG criterion it belongs to, so that the person can reproduce it or read the technical documents which are associated with the WCAG criteria. And the customer should also know, okay, this is not something the tester imagined, but which is, of course, a real WCAG issue. When possible, as it means when you are in the position, you should also give recommendations how to solve the problem. That is not always possible. For websites, for example, it is in most cases possible to look into the source code, and many web testers know enough about web development to give helpful recommendations. For native apps, that could be much more difficult because most app testers are not app developers, and this makes it more difficult. You should also always refer to the WCAG criteria or techniques which are related to the error when you know them and when they exist. This is also important for the testers to solve the problem. It can also be helpful. This is not mandatory, but I think it can be helpful when you map the responsibilities to the role. I distinguish between editor, developer, and designer, or editing, design, and development. And you can also specify the role when you know that. This can be helpful to solve the problem. Another thing is prioritization. That means that you look for the impact of the problem and how impactful is the problem. And that can be helpful to decide for the customer to decide on which he should prioritize, on which problem he should prioritize to solve it. There are also different possibilities to document errors. The easiest, what you always should do, of course, besides the description and words, is to add screenshots, perhaps different screenshots of the problem. In some cases, it also can be useful to make short video recordings. I think most tools, most operating systems today contain a software, a tool to record short videos. And that in some cases it is easier to understand the problem when you describe it in a video or when you record the problem. For example, from keyboard traps and things like that, that can be helpful. So that was it for the time. I hope you find the video helpful. Would be glad if you come back next time. Goodbye.